thank you for tuning in. You're watching The Property Guide in ET Now. I'm Faye D'Souza. Now, on this show, we try and give you all the information you need while investing in real estate. And oh, do we live in interesting times. We're going to have a new government in less than a couple of weeks, and things could change drastically. What we're going to do on this show is we're going to hold your hand through all of it and make sure that you get the best possible deal, whether you're buying or selling property in the country. Now remember, my email ID is at the bottom of your screen right now. You can send me an email or you can reach me on Twitter if you have anything to share when it comes to real estate. On the show this week, we'll start by telling you if it's the right time to sell property, and if you're in the market to sell, we'll give you a checklist of documents and things to keep in mind. We'll tell you what's driving real estate growth in Mumbai's suburbs of Vasai and Virar, and if it makes sense for you to invest in those neighborhoods. And finally, we'll sit down with James Slater of Construction Management and Development and talk about what's driving the Indian real estate market and why project managers could make things better. All right, joining us on the show today, Arvind Nandan, independent analyst, who's going to help us understand the market a little better, and Jayashree Kurup, head of content and research at magicbricks.com. Thank you, both of you, for joining us. Let's get straight to the topic that we have right on top of the show today. Now, we've talked about locations, we've talked about developers and projects if you want to make a smart decision. Today, we're going to talk about selling property in reaction to all of the questions you've sent us. Now, obviously, if you're in the market to sell property, I don't need to tell you it's a tough market, but you also need to figure out how to arrive at the value for your property, what you should be paying for brokerage, and of course, the documents you're going to need to sell property. Let's get straight to it. Arvind, it is a tough market to sell right now, but a lot of the questions that we've gotten so far have asked us, how do we arrive at a valuation? Do we just call the local brokers in and they'll give us a ballpark figure of this is what your house is valued at? Is there a professional way to do that? How should a normal person trying to sell a home right now go about doing it?
You need to know how you should do the valuation. And sometimes the brokers may not be the best judges because of either vested interests or lack of enough technical knowledge. The best thing, if you could afford it, is to hire a professional valuer. Unfortunately, there are quite a few in all cities in India, in all big cities at least. So go to them.
So who would be a professional valuer at this point? Like a property consultant firm? Would that work?
Well, a property consultant firm will have a valuation department, but that may not be suitable for a retail buyer or a seller because it may come very expensive. But there are smaller valuation firms which have professional valuers who have either done courses or have trained on the job, and they are your right picks. If you want to do it on your own, there are some basic things that you must be able to do. You need to first do some market research and figure out what have the properties sold at in the vicinity within the last few weeks or last few months if you can. That should be your first benchmark. Then add to that various other intangibles like the brokerage that you will have to pay, the other charges that you may have to incur by way of legal expense and all that. Give it a shape and then try and figure out what could be the broad range in which your value would lie. And then if you can, try and approach a professional valuer who can generate a report which is...
I have two quick questions for you. One, when you're talking about a professional valuer, and let's talk about the big cities in India right now, what is the average that I should be willing to pay a professional valuer? And secondly, what are the various things that go into valuing a home?
The first thing that comes into consideration is the location of a property that's being sold. But remember, within the same location, you can have properties which will be valued significantly differently. The most important thing to keep in mind is the quality of the building, its architectural and technical soundness in terms of whether it's structurally in full repair, whether it's got any dilapidated parts. All those things will have to be considered. Once you have figured where your building stands with respect to other buildings in the vicinity, then you should look at what your location fetches in general. That will be a range. It could be, for an example, it could be 10,000 to 15,000 rupees per square foot. You know that your property will lie somewhere in that range. Once you have these two things covered, then look at future aspects. Are there going to be other infrastructure projects laid in the vicinity? Is there a new road coming up? Is there a flyover coming up which is going to somehow hinder my building? So there could be several other aspects. So put all these things together and you have a good sense of where your property value should lie.
All right, very quickly, what should I pay a consultant or a valuer?
Now, the first part of your question. If you go to a multinational or an established firm, they're going to charge you exorbitant rates. It could be anywhere between 15,000 to a lakh of rupees, which I don't think is affordable for a lay buyer. But if you reach out to a respected local valuer, you can get this done for anywhere between 20,000 to 30,000 rupees odd for a short report.
I want to bring in Jayashree. Jayashree, things have changed drastically with the internet, and you know that more than anybody else right now. Now, given the fact that I can list property online if I'm trying to sell, how can we use the internet today to arrive at the value that we should be charging for a property that we're selling? And what are the other benefits of maybe doing research over the internet, finding out what the values are in the rest of the neighborhood? How would you advise someone to go about doing that?
Now, before you reach the broker stage, I would say that the best thing to do is go online, check, list your property. The first property is free of costs. Now, it's important to put in all your details so that the person who's looking to buy that property knows which floor you are on, how old your construction is, what type of developer have you bought it from, and what is the location and the locational advantages. Also, it's important to say that these are the current advantages and the future advantages as well, which means there's a flyover, there's a metro link, there are things like this which have future potential. But once you've listed your property, it is always important that you go back to the research section of the site and figure out what the other properties like yours are fetching at this point of time.
That's true. I want to ask you, Arvind, for another very quick list. If I'm looking to sell property right now, what sort of paperwork should I keep handy? Because you know that the buyers are going to ask for it.
The first and the foremost thing is your ownership paper, the title document to the property. If you purchased it from, let's say, a builder, what was your final sale document that you had? Or if you've purchased it through a second sale, what all paper did the previous seller give to you? It could include not just the value of a flat in the case of an apartment, but it should also include the agreement of sale for the parking space, or if there was a club membership which came with that. All the things need to be in place. Further, if there was a bank finance or an institutional finance procured on that property, an NOC or a final document saying the loan has been cleared, or if it's outstanding, it says that it is paid up to such an extent. So everything which covers the finance of the property, everything which covers the title of the property, and everything which relates to its compliances, all these three spheres must be clearly presented.
Also, Jayashree, there are costs to selling property right now. Can you take us through what sort of costs we should be prepared to face if we're selling property at this point?
First of all, you have to clear all your taxes. Whatever taxes are due, clear it, because you'll get a much better value for your property. The second is that you have to consider the stamp duty and the registration of the sale. Also look at what you're going to pay your broker, or whatever charges you have to pay when you sell a property. At the registration, whoever facilitates the registration, you have to pay your charges. These are all hidden charges, and these amount to a lot.
I also very quickly want to ask you, so that our viewers are prepared, for someone who puts a home on the market today, on an average, from your study of the website, how long does it take to make a sale at this time?
It depends on the stage of the market. For the last 1 year, the markets have been slow, and properties have remained on the market for, I would say, 6-7 months. But if the property is very well located, or its attributes are very good, we have seen sales concluding in 2 weeks to 4 weeks, which means that between a month to 6 months, you should be able to sell your property if you've done your homework before that.
All right, so be prepared for at least a 6-month wait, and of course do all of your homework. The paperwork is in order, the higher chances that you'll get a better value for your home. Shobha has written in. She owns a 1-bedroom apartment in Mira Road by RNA Corp, which she'd like to sell, super built-up area of 632 square feet. Now, she wants to know, is this the right time to sell, and what price can she expect for it? Jayashree, Mira Road, 632 square feet. What can she expect?
Currently, a 1-bedroom on Mira Road, about 600 to 650 square feet, we see that it's fetching about, it's quoting at about 6,200 to about 6,400 per square feet on this website. But there are a couple of things that I'd like to point out here, Faye. If this person is selling this house to buy another one, this probably is a good time to buy the next house. So, would you like to wait till you to sell this property? Maybe not, because you want to reinvest that money. Also remember that if you haven't held the property for at least 3 years, your taxation is high. So if you've held the property for 3 years, this is the time that you can consider to sell. But when you sell, the best value will probably come after about 6 months. But that that time, if you can't, if you want to buy a new property, you would also have to pay that much more.
Our next question comes in from Mohit, who's invested in a 3.5-bedroom apartment in Shobha Garnet in Kondwa in Pune. He wants to know what kind of returns he can expect from this investment going forward. Do you want to hazard a guess?
Well, guessing what kind of returns is a difficult thing at this point in time. What I can certainly say is Garnet is a reasonably sized project, and it lies in Kondwa, which is a good location, which has got a lot of supply of late. All the good prestigious ones are there. The prices have already gone beyond 5,700 rupees or so, which means you will not get a very substantial and a very quick appreciation at this point in time. So if you wait for a reasonable period of time, 3 to 4 years, then probably you're looking at a good rise in your investment, maybe 20-25%.
Over 3 years or annualized?
Over 3 years.
Over 3 years.
Okay. But at this point in time, I do not see a very quick appreciation happening. And beyond 3 years, you could probably look at a very steeper rate if things go all right in the economy.
All right, it's time for us to take a very short break. When we come back, we'll find out what's driving growth in Mumbai's twin suburbs of Vasai and Virar, and if it makes sense for you to invest. Welcome back. You're watching The Property Guide on ET Now. Thank you so much for staying with us. Both of our guests are still with us as well. It's time now to focus on specific markets. And this week, we're looking at Virar and Vasai. Now, both of these locations have been fast developing suburbs in the city, but there is some reason to want in terms of infrastructure and connectivity with the main city of Mumbai. Let's take a look at price trends and what's going on in these localities, and then we'll come back and talk about it. With real estate along Mumbai's western corridor getting saturated, developers started focusing their attention on newer localities. Two beneficiaries of this move have been Vasai and Virar. With a population of over 1.2 million, Vasai-Virar is Maharashtra's fifth largest city. The region is spread over 383 kilometers of forest land and hilly terrain. Back in the early 90s, both the suburbs had poor road connectivity and haphazard development. But massive land banks have attracted interest of reputed developers who came in with large-scale residential projects. A host of infrastructure projects like the Churchgate-Virar elevated rail corridor are further expected to boost the region's growth. Both locations are well connected to Mumbai through the Western Railway line. Property prices in Vasai-Virar have witnessed a steady up move over the last 2 years. Homes in Vasai are currently quoting an average of 4,825 rupees a square foot. That's an increase of 23% in 2 years. On the other hand, homes in Virar are currently quoting an average of 4,425 rupees a square foot, an increase of 15% in 2 years. All right, so that was Vasai and Virar. Jayshree, I'm going to come to you first with this. When you're looking at the website right now and you're looking for demand for homes, now we have to remember that Vasai and Virar offer homes within the budget of 20 lakh rupees, which is really difficult to find in Mumbai. Tell us what sort of demand you're seeing for these neighborhoods within on the website.
Say Vasai and Virar, we are seeing a very high demand for affordable properties. Now, because they are affordable, I think that is the biggest driver here. There are some future potential as far as infrastructure is concerned, and that is another reason why people seem to be looking at it. And there are a lot of questions that we get on our forum where people are asking about future infrastructure connectivities. Now, if you look at Vasai and Virar, it is fairly well connected to Borivali, Andheri, Kandivali, these areas, and these are areas which have already had high leverage value. For instance, you're looking about 11,000 to 15,000 in the Borivali, Kandivali stretch, whereas in Vasai Virar it's only about 4,500 to 5,500. So anyone with a smaller budget is currently looking at Vasai Virar.
Well, Arvind, if I were to ask you to compare Vasai-Virar vis-a-vis Mira Road and Bayandar and similar locations or similarly priced locations within Thane and Navi Mumbai, which one would you say makes most sense in terms of purely an investment at this point?
I would definitely go for Vasai and Virar, and my reasons are pretty clear. Let's talk about Thane first. Thane is a relatively older market, and there are different parts of Thane along the Ghodbandar Road, and you can go further up. But Thane offers slightly higher priced products, And also, for somebody who has to commute into the Mumbai suburbs, Thane is a little more difficult. Although public transport is quite good and everything else is fine, the local infrastructure is pretty fine.
So it depends on where you work and where you're going to commute.
Exactly, where you have to go on a daily basis. And that makes Thane a little difficult if you have to come to Mumbai suburbs every day. That leaves us with VASAI-VIRAR and Mira Bhayandar. Now, Mira Bhayandar is closer to Borivali, like Jayashree was saying, and the prices are in a certain bracket there. But somehow, for certain reasons, it is not as high a potential as Vasai and Virar are. Vasai-Virar have posed themselves as greater possibilities for future growth. The infrastructure is being laid, all the good developers are there, and the prices are in a much more attractive range.
So both if you're looking for a home to live in yourself and if you're looking for an investment, both of our guests agree that Vasai and Virar make a lot of sense. In fact, what we've done is we've put together a list of projects in those neighborhoods that you can take a look at. Well, if you're looking to buy a home in either Vasai or Virar, here are some options for you. In Virar, Acropolis by the Bhumi Group, Parksville by Ekta Group, Residency by Vinay Unique Group. And in Vasai, Sheetal Heights by DGS Group, Kunal Apartment by Smriti Constructions, and finally Sunshine Hills by the Shanti Construction Group. Alright, so if you have any questions about Vasai and Virar, feel free to write in to us. In fact, let's answer some questions right now. Amrita and Rakesh have written in. They tell us they're an NRI couple based out of Singapore looking to buy a home in Bangalore with a budget of 80 lakh to 1 crore rupees. They've shortlisted the Shobha Forest View in JP Nagar. They want to know if the location makes sense and what sort of returns it will offer. JP Nagar, Bangalore, that's a good location.
It's a good location, and I don't see any reason why they should be in doubt. Because it's a very good location, and if you compare, the two opposite quadrants of Bangalore, take the northern quadrant and take the southern quadrant, you know very clearly which one is, going to be more prosperous in the times to come. You have nice connectivity, you have the IT corridor connectivity, and then you have a very good mix of population living there. The demographics are perfectly fine. So unless you are constrained by your budget, you should definitely go for it.
You should be in the south. Nandan Nilkan is running from the south. That's the richest candidate we have in this election. That should tell you something. Jayashree, if you're looking at Shobha Forest View in JP Nagar, would you give a 2 thumbs up to that the particular choice?
I certainly would. I went through the site and checked out the capital values there on Kanakpura Road. It's roughly about 3,600 to 4,700, and the Shobha Forest is priced marginally higher. But I would go with a Shobha because actually, if you go with a good developer of the stature of Shobha, you always end up paying a little more, but later in future appreciation also you get better value for your property. So the location is good, it is in South Bangalore, and it has everything going for it. I would give it a double thumbs up.
We have another question from Amit, who's also an NRI based out of the UAE, looking to invest in either Hyderabad or Indore with a budget of 80 to 85 lakh rupees. He says his investment horizon is 4 to 5 years. He wants some options. Jayashree, I know what you're going to say if I ask you to choose between Indore and Hyderabad.
Hyderabad? I would actually lay my bet on Hyderabad. It is a very low price market, phenomenal potential. It has resolved its political problems which has plagued it for the last 3 to 4 years. And I would say that if I were to advise them, I would say go for Gachibowli, go for Madhapur, go for Amirpet. They all fit within his budget, and he should be able to get properties in these areas.
So we hope that helps. Now remember, if you have any questions about buying property, feel free to get in touch with us. Our email ID is on your screen right now. You can reach me personally on Twitter. Jayashree and Arvind, thank you so much for spending time with us this week. It's always a pleasure to have you both in the studio. Time for us to take a very quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about project managers working on residential projects. Will that change anything in terms of delays? Welcome back. You're watching the Property Guide on ET Now. Thank you for staying with us. Now, one of the changes we've noticed in our market of residential property in India is the advent of project managers who help developers plan an entire project and make sure it stays on course. What we did is we caught up with James Slater. He's the CEO of Construction Management and Development, one such project manager who's entered the Indian market. Now, we started by asking him how project delays can be avoided in Indian real estate. Listen in.
The main issues with delays, and I've had I've worked on 4 major workout projects, all large projects, both in Bangalore and in Mumbai. And I would say the pre-planning of the project, the organization of the project before you ever put a shovel in the ground, is one of the 3 major reasons. I think, too, that developers are starting construction without having completed a lot of the pre-organization and design, so they're finishing design while they're actually building. And then 3, I think that another big delay is they aren't properly capitalized, a lot of developers, prior to the commencement of construction. There is a lot of capital on the sidelines that would go into projects if they knew that the developer would execute as promised.
Should potential customers use the presence of a project manager as a criteria when choosing projects?
We manage the entire design process, and we just won't start a major construction project unless the design is complete and the buyer really knows what he's getting. With traffic problems and water problems that you have here, you have to do an immense amount of pre-planning. Everything from how you're going to get rid of trash to where the crane's going to be located. So I think a lot of the way I've seen projects run here is each subcontractor just does whatever he wants to do. There's no central organization, and secondly, there's no communication system that goes all the way down to the laborer.
All right, so that's a wrap on Property Guide. Now, if you have any questions at all about buying or selling property in India, write to me. My email ID is at the bottom of your screen. And of course, you can reach me personally on Twitter as well. It will be my pleasure to hear from you. Thanks for watching.